February 12th, 2018, at 6 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance of the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have Mike Pantos participating by phone, seeing he is out of the area. Motion to sign Treasury Warrant 17 and payroll.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have some minutes.
Motion to accept meeting minutes of January 29th, 6 p.m. as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept January 22nd, 6 p.m. as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Down, there's nobody for public comment, nobody for appointment, so town administrators are reporting, please.
Budget updates, I don't have a whole lot of new information to report. On the revenue side, we have, I have put in the governor's cherry sheet numbers and the Bay Path excluded debt service and the available revenues, the new revenues for FY19 are up to 913, 302.95. Municipal department budget requests are running about $200,000 over where they would be based on last year's allotment of available revenues. Finance Committee continues to hold budget request meetings. Wachusett budget request meeting is tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock here in the library. That's all I have
That's all you have.
for budget updates.
New business, resignation of the library trustee Kenneth Scott.
Motion to accept the resignation as presented, effective January 22nd, 2018, with regret.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept the resignation of Donna Kilpatrick on the Agricultural Commission, effective January 31st, 2018, with regret.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Old business, community center building use regulations. Did everybody see those?
I sent an email last week to the board that I had made a couple of very small changes to the building use application form itself. And all right, the form you have in front of you is the last one, but the changes I made, just so you know, the changes I made to the application form are on the back, and where it reads, I agree to pay for said damages as assessed by the town of Rutland. I added, the town administrator or board of selectmen, if applicable, shall determine any and all fees to be imposed for damage, period. And then in the next sentence, the sentence had read, I agree to immediately report any damage to the building or its contents to the Recreation Department at 508-886-0048. And I added, and to the Council on Aging at 508-886-7945. And the sentence continues, or to the Rutland Regional Emergency Communications Center upon key return. Anybody have any questions on your reviews of this since the last meeting?
Nope, none.
Okay,
I
you can
have
see.
one from the audience.
Okay.
Could you please get up to the podium?
Sure.
Identify yourself, please.
Nancy Nichols, Lizzie Lane, and Council on Aging Director. The fees for the building, Is it just it says a one-time, 20 for nonprofit, 30 for profit. Is that regardless of time? So if they're there 1 hour versus 5 hours, or if it goes over, is there a minimum hours? So if somebody comes in and is gonna be there for 5, are we gonna set a minimum or just?
We don't have it per hour. We have not set it per hour.
Because it used to be, right? Didn't it used to be?
I have a question why you jumped to it being one time. Is it one time per application?
Well, I mean, per use, I should say.
Per use.
It's per use.
Right, so if they use it, but if somebody's using an hour and somebody's gonna come in and use it for 5 hours, is that the same? Because didn't it used to be per hour?
I can look at the old ones. Let's see. Oh. $1 to 5 hours, and it was $8.
Must be
Because it
old.
was recently 10, wasn't it? We were doing
All right, let me
$10 an
see.
hour
All right, so
somewhat
community
recently.
hall. All right, that's community hall. Hold on. I'm dealing with community hall too. Community hall and community center. Okay, let's see. Oh, I've got tons of markups. Let me check. These fees have not changed since the board last approved the application of regulations, I can tell you that.
Okay.
But they probably have changed since the old ones, so let me see if I can locate that somewhere way back in the archives here.
Oh, you know what? I just found it. On
What does
one of
it
our
say?
last forms, it says fee $10 per hour for profit groups.
Oh, for profit groups, okay.
So even if you hold the 30, that's fine. I just didn't know if you wanted to. Or if somebody would, complain if they were using it for an hour.
Or say 1 to 3 hours, $30, 1 to 3 hours for profit. If they exceed that, they pay another. This is a for-profit?
Or at least, you know what I mean? I'm trying to prevent like somebody who uses it for an hour exercise and then somebody comes in and uses it for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, but to that point, Margaret, would you really charge somebody $30 for an hour? If we're gonna do
No.
like.
It's $30 per use, doesn't matter if it's an hour or more.
No,
That's
but
the
then
way
you-
it's,
No, I know, but then you just said 1 to 3 hours, whereas if we did it Nancy's way, an hour is 10 and 2 hours is 20 and 3 hours is 30.
If you keep it to that, or would you raise it? I'm not saying you have to keep it at the 10. I just didn't know if you talked about any you know what I mean? Anything different or just a flat fee, which, that's just my
it
question.
was flat fee 20 and 30.
Yeah, which made it easier from a management standpoint, that's for sure.
Okay.
I guess the question is, how many entities are only using it an hour where we feel like $30 is exorbitant? And how many are using it for 4, 5, 6 hours where maybe we're not quite charging enough? I think a typical use is probably in the hour and a half, 2 hour mark, right? The Girl
Probably.
Scouts having a meeting, who I would expect actually would apply for a waiver, but as an example.
Yeah, or if they have an event, sometimes it's 3. We had
Yeah.
some group use it for a lunch that they brought in themselves, but that was 4 hours.
4 hours.
Weight Watchers uses it. They come and set up at like 2 and they use it till at least 6, maybe 7.
Board's prerogative. I'll go with whatever.
If I may, through the chair,
Yes.
and I understand what you're saying, but I think we should probably assign min-max to that, because there is, even after 3 hours, there is still a cost. You've got a cost for water, sewer, electricity, you still got a cost for custodial services that none of these profit or non-profit are charged for. We did just put a lot of rehab into the community center. And it was looking pretty good. I don't know if anybody got a chance to go up there, but I'm very happy. Most of it was community service. We did get some deals on some flooring, carpeting, finishing to the linoleum, so on and so forth. But we still do have those other services, so I think we should agree on a rate And if it exceeds that maximum time frame, there should be an hourly rate assigned to that, just to cover the overhead. Now, a nonprofit, I understand they can file for a waiver, but we still have those costs to put into to take care of the building, to leave it running and operable.
The fees used to be $10 per hour?
That's what I'm reading on a form, yeah, $10, and it did state, for-profit groups.
And I know that Nancy, when you and it was Caitlin at the time, and Gary and I met, we talked about increasing the fees so that it would cover multiple hours. So that's why the fees jumped from $10 to $30. So if the board wants to set a time frame, and then if the time frame exceeds that, the problem is, I guess. Well, we'll have to,
No, you know what?
Before.
I know where you're headed, Margaret, but this actually might solve a lot of issues, because if we charge hourly and create, I mean, whether it's online or not, but essentially create a check-in system of, here's when I opened the door, or here's when I started, and here's when I ended, it's also giving us security issues relative to what Gary just said, which is, you know when things have happened in the building, because people have signed in and signed out. It's gonna be fairer too for the person, like you said, running an exercise class, and they're only there for an hour, and they're out the door, versus the Weight Watchers that's there for 5, and they're gonna get charged the same amount of money. That's crazy. So I get that, and your point about using more water the longer you're there, more sewer the longer you're there, that makes perfect sense to me. So if we started with a $20 for the first hour flat, and then went in left your $10 increments after that, and then if you want to set a cap, but we would never have somebody take the building for 10 hours, would we? For $100?
I think for-profit should be $30 as the baseline, because it's $20 for nonprofit.
Okay, so,
right?
So 30 baseline an hour, and with an additional $10 every hour after that?
Yeah.
See,
I think a flat fee system would probably be simpler and easier.
I just think it should be, clear, however you want to do it, so that.
Just my 2 cents.
If you are going to add additional fees per hour after the 3 hours or whatever it was just discussed, I would amend the application near the top where it says reserve time. I would force the group to put the block of time from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., for example, or so we know, we have an idea.
And you think of any place that's renting out their space for birthday parties, whatever, they're charging by the hour, and you've got an amount of time, and when you're done, and we know you're done because you signed up for that time, and the next group can come in. I don't know. Otherwise, I liked everything.
So it'll be the same 20 and 30 that you have, but you're gonna, up to how many hours? 2.
2?
$10 an hour, that's reasonable for maintenance and utilities. I think it's reasonable.
No,
Yeah,
right,
I
but then
agree.
we said, is there any reason for a ceiling? I don't know that there is, because we don't have people asking for the building for 12 hours at a time. I feel like we could revisit it at that point.
Yeah.
No, you don't need to
Okay.
see.
I will, though, change the application to read reserve time from to. Okay,
Yeah.
that way it'll be clear.
Okay. Thank you.
So do we want to approve this with the amendment, with the changes? I
Make
have a
that.
motion saying so.
Yeah, I'll make that motion to make the one change where it's a $30 first hour, $10 for every hour after that for the for-profits.
And
So if I'm not saying that correctly, that's a base fee of $30 plus $10 for every hour thereafter?
Yep. On the for-profit side.
Not for the nonprofits, Mike.
That's right. Okay, that's fine.
Plus $10 for every hour thereafter. Okay.
Oh, and you're gonna add, obviously, the
Reserve fund.
reserve time
That's still very
window.
reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, we think so, Mike.
Okay, good.
I'll second that then. We need a motion for that? Or we-
Sheila made the motion.
I'll second.
Can I ask
All
a
the-
question before you vote? I just want to understand now. For nonprofit, it's $20 an hour,
No.
$20 flat
Up
fee.
$20.
up to 2 hours with no additional hourly rate. Now, and the only reason I ask the question is because you have an application that they can apply for waiver.
Yeah.
So if they apply for and are granted waiver, where do any funds come in to pay for upkeep? And I'm not trying to seem harsh to nonprofit, but we
I
still
think-
have an expense.
No, it's a fair question, and I think that's where tax dollars come into play. And I think where that is reflected, Gary, is when you look at the nonprofit waiver request form, it says, how does Rutland's community benefit from your organization's activities? So if there's no community benefit, which of course so many of our nonprofits are giving back at huge value, you look at, I keep mentioning the Girl Scouts just because it's the top of my head, but you look at the machine, the defibrillator, right, that's over in the community center, or you look at the community garden that they had built at one point, and I know you guys have put more work into it. If it's a nonprofit that is giving back to the community, it's not clear to me why we would charge them to have a meeting. I hope they will apply for a waiver personally. I totally see what you're saying. I don't know if there's something that needs to be revisited where they would still be, to me, responsible for damages, just because they
Oh,
applied.
absolutely.
So-
No one is exempt from that.
And they usually, I don't think typically they don't have meetings, they have events.
Yeah,
What about recreation events? I don't know where that,
I mean, that's a town entity, right? So it would be like charging a town entity.
but which ones are classified? Like are exercise still recreation events?
If it's put
instructors
on,
making
if it's
money?
sponsored by the town's recreation department, that would be a town recreation function.
So do
So-
they,
If they're holding exercise classes there, that would be that would be town sponsored, like
so that's
recreation.
just exempt?
That would be exempt.
And they pay a separate fee to recreation? They must pay something to recreation.
Recreation hosts it, so I don't know the fee structure.
But they must be something, okay.
So
Oh,
that's a little gray, because you've got recreation hosting, they're not hosting, what are they? They are contracting with different,
So then they're not a
Educators?
nonprofit, and they're
well,
not,
I don't know, it's not a nonprofit or a for-profit. It's a town entity that has a revolving fund, working in a town building, so that's fine. They're engaging to hold a class. The money's going into their revolving fund. I don't know.
And it's contracted by recreation.
It's contracted by recreation.
Yeah, I think that would be considered a town recreation
Yeah,
activity. We'll have to revisit.
yeah, because I don't know how that works, because I know like when the dinner was there, recreation said, no, that does go into the general fund, so I don't know.
What dinner?
Somebody held a dinner, an organization, they needed to have a meeting and a luncheon. So recreation
It wasn't
filled out the
it wasn't one
form.
of the recreation programs though, right? Because if it was for the
No,
recreation program, it
it
could go
wasn't.
back into the recreation revolving fund, but if it's just a general building use, it's supposed to go back to the general fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But one more thing, be it general fund or be it a revolving fund for recreation, the uses are still paid for out of the purchase services line items.
General fund,
Mm-hmm.
right. That's right, that's all general fund. The purchase services line, that's general fund, yeah, as opposed to the recreation revolving fund.
But we're still paying the bill out of whatever the amount is budgeted for town buildings, out of that line item. It doesn't come, we don't tap into the general fund to pay for those utilities. We
Yeah.
tap,
No, it's funded through the general fund. So in the general operating budget, it's all general fund revenues that actually fund the operating budget for those purchase services lines.
Okay.
Okay, so the money comes back next year, it's general fund revenue generated, goes into the purchase services lines and all the other lines, but not the recreation revolving fund.
so I got a second. All those in favor, could I have a roll call vote, please? Seeing as how Mike is participating by phone.
Walker, aye.
Santos, yes.
Okay,
All right, I'll change that application, we'll get it distributed, it's all official.
Annual town report dedication and in memory of. Anybody think on this over the last couple of weeks?
So 3 names were submitted.
3 names.
You have them before you.
Ms. Carlson.
So she did specifically the town report dedication.
That's the dedication, yeah.
I really liked her suggestion of Karen Greenwood and Lynn Amsden, who timing-wise, it really just fits. It was their last 4th of July last year. You know, our fiscal year starts July 1, and it was that sort of big ending year. So I think to dedicate the report to them after so many years of nonprofit service would just be perfect. And I know she had another suggestion. I'd like to see that project a little bit more farther along before, you know what I mean? I feel like that work's not quite done yet, so I'd like to have that dedication to be celebratory, if that makes sense.
Oh,
That does
yes.
make sense.
It sure does.
Well, I think it's time that we acknowledge folks while they're still around versus after the fact too,
Yeah,
for their effort and contributions to the town.
yes.
As far as the in memoriam, I feel like we had a couple of names that were brought up that seemed all very appropriate. Certainly Mr. Becker, for his years of service as a selectman, and then on cable. There was another name though, somebody that we lost.
It's across the street. What's his name?
Eddie Bracebridge.
Eddie Bracebridge.
Eddie Bracebridge.
Can we just do a page in memory of folks that we lost?
That's a good idea.
That is a good idea.
The second
It
page?
doesn't have to be limited to one, probably shouldn't.
No, it certainly has to be limited.
I think,
If, the only issue, I think, devil's advocate, is when you start having more than one person, it's sort of like, where did you draw the
No, I
line?
think
Where did
it's
you draw the line?
two-part dedication to those that are still with us, for their efforts, and those that have passed, and two pages, page 1 and page 2, so that everybody gets acknowledged.
I think we could do in memoriam to those the town has lost who dedicated a lot of their time to the town.
Okay, we just need to be careful with naming, right?
Yes.
See where I'm headed, you don't wanna leave somebody out.
Nope.
When you pick one, you say, well, we picked this one because, better
And I
or
think we
worse.
should stay to the one myself, but personally. Yep. Like Ray Becker and these 2 young ladies that were on the 4th of July committee.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
All right. Do I have a second on the motion?
I was second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Deborah,
Clock eye.
Walker, aye.
great.
Fuel efficiency vehicle policy. What's that all about?
Oh, this is a green communities criteria that has to be met. We need to adopt a fuel-efficient vehicle policy. This was given to the board at your last meeting to review. We have a lot of work still that needs to be put into it. We do need to include the vehicle inventory. But this fuel-efficient vehicle policy generally governs the purchase of new vehicles that are not over a certain gross vehicle weight, in this case 8,500 pounds, or emergency vehicles. So needless to say, the town of Rutland has very few vehicles that would even meet this policy. So it needs to be put.
Why do you say that one? You don't think the new police cars?
No, because they're emergency vehicles, cruisers, ambulance, any
Highway trucks.
yeah, any kind of first
Yeah.
responders, highway trucks, they would all be exempt.
Well, that makes it easier.
It does.
I think really, Gary, it's just your car.
Now, the mile per gallon number that's used in the calculations, Is that the one coming from this chart here?
Yeah,
And that chart's from 2010 EPA data.
yeah.
That's a little old.
It is a little old, yes. It is, and this is the model policy from the state, so it's like baseline data. And really, the miles per gallon, really, they're not asking too much, I don't think,
Really
given the
not.
efficiency of vehicles now.
I know my truck wouldn't meet it.
No.
I wish it did.
We got-
So Margaret, do you need a motion for adoption of this?
Yes, we need a motion for adoption of this policy.
I'll make the motion.
Do you have a second?
I'll say it.
All those in favor, roll call.
Walker, aye.
That's aye.
Did I?
Clock eye.
Okay, this is one criteria out of 5 that need to be met to become green communities designated, so working on them.
Special town meeting warrant.
Okay. You have the warrant in front of you. There's one article. You also have a handout. I did just receive a few very minor modifications to the proposed bylaw from council. So legal counsel has reviewed this. It all meets the requirements, but I will forward the board the few updates that were made to the bylaw. Mostly editorial.
Margaret, did legal say anything about the definition of temporary? Is somebody going to ask about that? They will.
Temporary. All right, well, temporary is actually, should be spelled out right in the bylaw. It is, under temporary moratorium,
Thank you.
the last section,
Yep.
okay?
Margaret, we're referring to the marijuana.
Moratorium, yes.
Okay.
All right, so the moratorium would,
You would accept and with the legal counsel's
yes,
changes.
yes.
Do I have a second?
I will second it.
All those in favor?
Walker, aye.
Cancel sign.
Clock eye.
Did I?
I have 6 copies here for signature.
Margaret, I'll stop at the office Thursday afternoon. Sign it.
Okay. And I will forward the board, legal's revisions to the bylaw. Again, they're minor.
Thank you.
Those are my copies.
Oh, 5 places for posting plus 1 for the clerk.
They all have to be originals?
Book. Yes. Oh, I guess I don't need this anymore.
Town department heads, how about it, Gary? See how you're all by yourself.
No, Nancy's here. I mean, get to the
Well,
point.
you can
You're
go
on-
first.
I don't see her on the agenda, see,
Okay.
unless she's on the back.
Okay, well, the only agenda item that I have listed is the Moulton Mill Dam project request. So, as you know, when I come to you with a Chapter 90 project request prior to submittal to the state, I always run it by the board. We have discussed this in the past, and town of Rutland's obligation for the Moulton Mill Pond Dam engineering and design is $40,000. So I have here signed off as the project request for state aid through Chapter 90, signed off by myself and town accountant to forward to MassDOT for approval, which I don't foresee any issue with that, but that's our obligation, that's our 25%, 40,000, to get that underway. So it's really just, I mean, if you want to make a motion to disapprove, we can certainly do that, but we'd lose the grant. So that's the only reason why I bring all the Chapter 90 projects to you. So you know, year 2 of the TIP, we have not had to apply for the additional 150 yet for our obligation for that project. So that money is still in the bank. This has to be done. This obviously, as you all know, has to be done before the TIP. So we want to get this through and start sending in the bills and invoices to get this taken care of. Any questions on that? Any issues, problems? No? Okay. So I have just a few things here, just to let the board, obviously Margaret knows about most of, if not all of these items. These are all things that we have to look forward to in the upcoming year, so I wanted to run them by you or keep you apprised, if you will. Through the DPW, it will be the Palmagussit Tip, Moulton Mill Pond Dam, as just talked about, Rutland Heights Development, which, so the board knows, effective Thursday morning, there will be a north-south facing for sale or lease sign placed on Maple. Stormwater mandates, which I suggested to all of you, and the costs that we are expected to incur. I was supposed to go to Chatham tomorrow, but didn't know if my fuel-efficient escape would make it that far without fueling up. So I was able to change my class to Springfield on the 28th of February. It's an all-day class. But as I've mentioned to the board and all before, this is not just a pain that the town of Rutland is going through. This is the state of Massachusetts, and no one knows where these monies are coming from, so hopefully we'll come to some resolve or get some ideas. To continue, we have the water sewer rate study, which is just about complete. We have town building roof replacements, which I do have 2 prices so far, and another contractor I'll be meeting at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, so we'll have the 3rd. What I would like to do with that is apply again for an emergency procurement document that says we don't have to go out for official bid because of the dollar amount, because of the condition of the roofs. I don't know how we'll go with that, but that's what I'm looking at. We have town building renovations, including parking lots that we've talked about over and over again. We have complete streets that we really have to put some finishing touches on this to get that moving. We have radio communications for the department, which I am talking to mostly City of Worcester, Emergency Management, as well as some vendors to get prices for the DPW vehicles, so we will not have to purchase a base station, so we'll be able to talk truck to truck as opposed to telephone usage, so you know. We have the water treatment plant upgrades, which is also, as Margaret knows, and you guys know, that these again are mandates set forth by DEP that we have to do. And we are still going through, and the proposal will be sent to me shortly for the water line replacement of the neighborhoods we've talked about. So I want you to know that other than, we'll call it regular for lack of a better term, items that the DPW is looking at, this is all stuff that the department, as well as you folks, obviously, because you're right in there with me on this stuff. This is what we're doing, and this is what we have to get done, and we've got to put that left foot forward. I'm sorry if you guys aren't left-handed, but I am, so my left foot is going forward, and we're gonna get these things done, and we're gonna continue to get these and not let them slide. They can't hit the wayside. We have to get them done. We're gonna work together till death do us part. That's my spiel. That's what we're here for, and that's what we're gonna get done. And we're not gonna get, anyone's not gonna get this done alone. So I have to really extend my thanks to you guys for the support that I have received. Certainly, as I do all the time, I thank the department and the staff, the support staff in the department. They're the folks that really keep me hopping on this stuff because there's a lot to do. It is a full plate, but we will get it done. So I just want to assure you that we'll get it done. And that's all I got. If there's any questions on those items or anything else, other than social media, I'm glad to answer them.
Can I respond to that last part? So, social media is a necessary evil at this point.
Did you
And
say necessary or unnecessary?
It's necessary to respond to it and to know that it's there. It's not going away, and to stick our heads in the sand and pretend it's not happening is not taking it seriously enough. Because unfortunately, we see what happens when rumors spread, and social media allows them to spread faster. So I do want to just publicly state that residents should expect a very high level of service. No one is perfect. And when service needs to be improved, they need to take the responsible route, be the grown-ups, report it, send a letter, send an email, not anonymous phone calls, not calling employees out by name that they didn't even identify, but just putting things out on social media as some sort of a threat or a way to start a rumor from rumors spreading. It was, I know what you're referencing, the most recent one, and I found it really disturbing. So I would certainly hope that, again, residents should expect a very high level of service from us. If they have a complaint, they need to put it in writing, give us a call, do the right thing, and we would take the right road of action, path of action. But it's out there, Gary. We can't, I don't think avoiding it is the solution.
But you probably would not me to
No, maybe not
to
you.
respond.
No, not you, probably not.
And my intent, and certainly our goal, is to give them the level of service that they deserve. And we do our best at that. I would very much like people to come down and see me. I'm not that much of a bad guy. But anyway, we take care of it. I've talked to those people in question. I thought they were very productive conversations. I was glad to get it off of my chest. I mean, obviously, I can't call them up 2 o'clock in the morning, and they probably would want to hear from me at that time when all this stuff was hitting the waves. But we got it as many social media is here, whether I agree with it or not. That's my issue. So, but I do thank you for your support on those items that did come, Sheila. I know you came right down and we discussed it, and we'll move forward with that. I do not want anybody to think they cannot come down and see me. I just don't want folks to think that they cannot come down and see me. I'm not able to return all phone calls or knock on all doors when these things come all at once. There's just not enough time in the day, especially during a snow and ice event. Especially after a snow and ice event where we're all tired. People probably don't want to come down and see me when we're all tired, so. But that's okay. I'll keep my chin up as the department does. We'll move forward and we'll get the job done, and we'll do it the best way we can.
Speaking of social media, I don't know if you noticed, but our neighboring town got hit pretty hard in the last couple days because of the potholes that have sprung up on 122A. I'm curious, is it just that section, because obviously we know that's Mass Highway, we're not seeing, it's not that we're not seeing potholes, we are, but our section of 122A doesn't seem anywhere near the issues that they were having in Holden. I mean, really excessive. Police were there last night, and cars with flat tires.
The scene that they did that several years ago when they did the town of Rutland, when they went through Main Street.
Yeah.
The scene is obviously on the north side. of Holden, and that is seriously delaminated. I
Yeah.
mean, we all travel it, we all go to meeting, we all travel it daily, weekly, and we see what it is, so. This has been an extremely, in defense of Holden, MassDOT, Rutland, whoever you wanna talk about, this has been an extremely difficult season as
Yep.
far as freeze thaw. And we all see that. Manholes are just popping, the frames of manholes, the perimeter of them are just popping out of the ground. It's terrible. You know, and I offered to any of you, come out and try to plow one of the subs, and you'll see exactly what I mean, because it is, and I'm telling you, it's terrible. The freeze thaw has just been out of control. So all I can wait for it to settle, or possibly get another nice deep freeze and a ton of snow. That'll fix the problem.
Cover up the problem.
Yeah, cover them up, freeze them over.
Alright.
But that is a MassDOT roadway, it is, and I know Holden got slammed for it, as any community. Rutland's gotten slammed for mass highways as well.
Yep.
I guess the good thing between Rutland, not knowing how Holden operates, but Mass Highway and myself are in constant communication when there's an issue here, and we have done a lot of their work with them and for them as they have returned the favor. So I'm proud of that relationship, and we'll keep that going.
Thank you.
We thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome, sir. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Okay.
Motion to go into executive session for reason number 3 to discuss strategies with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, Board of Selectmen, and for reason number 7 to comply with or act under the authority of any general or specific law or federal granting aid requirements, executive session minutes only to return for the purpose of adjournment.
Second.
Goodbye.
Walker, aye.
Black eye. You there, Mike?
No? Hello?